Okay, here we are. Welcome, everyone. How many people do we have watching? So far, it's showing me 0. That's cool. That's par for the course. You know what? Maybe that's what this movie deserves. Who knows? But this live stream will be here as a historical document forever, and it's more about that. It's for the future generations to hear what we had to say about Power of the Dog. Hey, look, we have 2 people. Hi. So, oh yes, welcome, official welcomes. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and welcome to, I have to put down my teacup. There we go. Welcome to yet another Teacup for One movie marathon live show as part of the Oscar movie marathon. So if this is your first time joining us for one of our live shows, every week for the past few weeks, we've been coming together just to talk about a different movie that's in the running for one of the Oscars, if not like the big Oscar for Best Picture. So far, we have spoken about Being the Ricardos, not nominated for Best Picture, but a lot of acting nominations there. Then we spoke about Don't Look Up. Kind of the opposite, no acting nominations, but a Best Picture nomination. And then today, we are going to be discussing the most Oscar-nominated film of this entire award season, which really set the bar kind of high for what this movie ended up delivering, at least in my opinion, but we'll discuss that in a little bit. And it is the most acting-nominated film of the year, which I also think is interesting. And again, we'll discuss that when the time comes. But of course, it would not be a Teacup for One live show if we didn't have an esteemed panel of wonderful guests. And as always, we have an esteemed panel of wonderful guests, which I'm so excited to introduce you to. So joining us once again, Teacup for One fan favorite, it's Lauren from Castlescapes and Clones.
Hello.
Hi, Lauren.
How's it going?
Good. Welcome back. Thanks for coming to talk about this movie.
Thank you.
I enjoy your company. I more than I enjoy this movie. So there we go. Yeah. So anyway, Lauren, tell us about you. Who is Lauren? What does Lauren do?
Well, Lauren has a YouTube channel called Castlescapes and Clones, where we discuss everything in the Disney universe. We do, like a lot of unboxings, hauls, pins, box swaps. I've been doing a lot of reaction videos to trailers, reviews, and news. So we have a live show on Thursdays, and so we'll have one tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Galactic Star Cruiser. So yeah,
I want to go so badly.
I know, me too.
I want to mortgage the house I don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
so that's me in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Oh, let's check in the chat. We have some guests here. It looks like the one person watching is my mom's cat. Hello, Eliza. Always a pleasure.
Oh, mom's cat.
Yeah, look how beautiful she is.
Very pretty.
She is. She's a little princess movie star, and she knows it. We love Eliza. Yeah, she's probably going to get a TikTok soon enough, but the time will come. All right, bringing in our next guest for this evening. You know her. You love her. It's Tinker J.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome, Tinker Jeanette. Thanks for joining us again. Always a pleasure to have you. So yeah, same thing. Just give Eliza, the cat, a quick overview just on who you are, what you do, and yeah, who's Jeanette?
Well, Eliza, I'm a Tinker J787 over on Instagram. Mainly cover Disney World, Disney content. So it's me, my husband, my daughter. We have an annual pass. We go to Disney as much as we can. We just got back in February, so there's a trip report over there that I did, as well as some other Instagram lives that I did while I was there. And I do a Marvel Monday post every week, so that's just something that I try to keep up with on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining us again.
Martha's here.
Oh, Martha's here.
Martha.
There we go. So far, our audience is my mom and my mom's cat. Brilliant. It's about par for the course with most of the content I put out. So there we go. All right. And now we have another very special guest joining us for this evening for the first time on the channel. Everyone, if you are a Canadian who went to the movies at Cineplex in between the years of I don't remember what, you definitely have seen this charming gentleman's face. It is the one and only Ben Gordon.
Hello, Matt.
Ben and Kat.
And friends and guests and Kat. We have a cat viewer on the channel, and we have a cat guest on this dog, Power of the Dog related episode.
How's that for equity?
It's perfect. You know, Abby said cat rights. This is Abby.
Beautiful. But
It's great to be on your show, Matt.
Ben, I'm so happy you could join us. So yeah, Ben, same thing. Tell us a little bit. Who are you? What do you do? Who is Ben?
Oh God, who am I? Well, I went to school with one Matt Teacup For One.
That's me.
That's right. When you say, Matt, that you have 2 degrees, we share one of those degrees because we studied film production back in the day. You're right. Back in like the mid 2010s, I used to host the Cineplex pre-show for a little while, which was a
host that they've
surreal. The new host, or the former new host, Tanner, I just saw him in a Quest Trade commercial, so he's acting now. He's got an acting gig. I'm not acting. I am doing graphic design and pitch work with commercial directors. So I do like visual research and design for director treatments when they try to pitch jobs, which is a weird niche job to have. I wish I had a YouTube channel. That seems a lot more fun. You guys are all having so much fun, you know?
Oh, but now we have Ben. So Ben, you can come on this YouTube channel anytime you want. Open invitation. And you know what? You know, Tanner Zipchin, the former Cineplex pre-show host, like he does Comic-Cons now. So that could be you.
Oh,
I know.
God, I really missed out on an opportunity. You know?
Did. Like I would pay the $20 to $35 to get your autograph and the extra $40 to take a picture with you.
Well, you wouldn't have to, man. We go way back.
But I would. That's the thing. Well, Ben, I'm so thrilled to have you here. Ben is like one of the most charming but also insightful people that I know. And then like we usually talk for a good 2 or 3 hours about movies at the end of every year during like our annual Christmas get together. So I was like, we need some of that Ben Gordon insight here for this Oscar conversation. Especially, I'm so glad you're here for this specific movie, because I think if there's anyone that can make me appreciate it, it's probably you. But granted, maybe you don't like it. So who knows? Matt.
I'll do the best I can. You know,
okay.
I just watched it again. Well, we'll go into it, but I saw it a few months ago, and then to refresh my memory, I'm fresh off of a viewing like 30 minutes ago, so it's all up here.
Brilliant. You're a better person than me. I tried to rewatch it last night, and I said to Jeanette, I'm not giving this movie another 2 hours of my attention. I turned it off and then watched more videos of the Galactic Star Cruiser. So there we go. So here we are. Before we, I guess, dive into it, let's just do a quick go around, and I want to hear everyone's first impressions of the movie. Just like 1 or 2 quick sentences. What were your thoughts the first time you saw the movie before having time to reflect on it, or Google what other people were thinking about it, or before you had to hear what Sam Elliott had to say? For me, I would say I've kind of compared it in some ways to The Godfather, because I was watching it thinking this movie is boring, but I'm engaged. But in retrospect, I don't think it's nearly as good as The Godfather. But it kind of had that same vibe where it moved so slowly, but it kept my attention. And then it just kind of ended abruptly. And Google told me what the story was. And I was like, okay, I can see that. Is it a good movie? Then I was confused, and that's where I still am now. Lauren, how about you?
I think that you kind of summed it up, actually. It was kind of like it was slow, but I was engaged. And I ultimately liked the movie, but it was painful. So, like, I had all these conflicting feelings going on watching it. But I did like the performances, I have to say. I did like them.
Well said. Jeanette.
I want to say I'm on the fence. The truth is I don't care for this film, but it's there were parts I enjoyed watching, mainly because I liked the actor that was on screen at the time. I think that the casting was interesting and kind of strange, but not strange enough to keep me that intrigued.
Doctor
and
Strange.
I think that was the thing. I know Westerns can go a number of ways, and I'm going to call it a Western. It's a Western, right? I mean...
That's actually one of my discussion topics. We'll get there.
But like, I wanted to be shocked. I wanted it to be shocking and have some twist, and it did. So, I mean, I guess in the end, it did its job, but it didn't wow me.
Well said. And Ben, how about you?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one in that it definitely, I find it really compelling, and I was intrigued throughout a lot of it, but I was kind of conflicted through my viewing experience of it the first time, because as interesting as these characters were, there's a lot of shifting in point of view, and there's a lot of really deliberate sort of siphoning out of information. So it really wasn't until the final few minutes of the movie, and there's only been a few movies like this that I've seen probably in my life, where it took until really the last few minutes for it to kind of coalesce for me and go, okay, this is the story that Jane Campion is telling. I'll be honest and say that it probably lives more kind of rattling around in my brain than it does in my heart. It doesn't move me the same way that other Jane Campion movies have, or movies that this year have. But I'm really fascinated by it as a character study, and as a sort of deconstruction of the Western as we're used to seeing. I think she's doing really, really interesting things, but I also don't disagree that it is slow going. It's a slow burn. And because you're not always aware of sort of kind of what the thrust of the narrative is, it can be a bit of a challenging watch for sure. But I also thought when I saw it, I said someday, not immediately, but someday I want to watch this again, because I think it will benefit knowing where it's headed, and seeing how she kind of clues us in throughout the running time, that it might benefit from a rewatch. And I think it does. So I'm positive on it, man. But you know, it's not my favorite of the year by any stretch, but I think it's a really fascinating movie.
Well said. See, this is why I knew this was the best movie to bring you on for, Ben Gordon. There it is.
Come on.
So yeah, no, but I am curious, since I think you're the only one who got through it a second time. Wait, Lauren, did you watch it twice or just the once?
Well, if you count the 3 times that I started it, but I only made it through once.
Okay, there we go. So, Anna, well said. And I agree. Well said, Ben.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thanks, Anna.
Yeah.
That's my girlfriend.
Oh, nice. Hi, Anna.
She's watching.
I haven't met Anna yet. Now I have. Hi, Anna.
There she is. You'll meet her someday. Don't worry.
Okay, brilliant. Can't wait. Oh, that sounded sarcastic. It wasn't. I can't wait. No, I was going to say, so Ben, since you're the one of us on screen who has seen it a second time, I'm curious to hear, were there any specific things that resonated with you, or that you even noticed specifically in terms of leading up to where the movie ultimately ended on the second viewing? And like, what was that experience like for you?
Yes. And so I also should ask too, because we probably don't want to spoil too much early on the conversation, or is it okay? Because
if anyone cares enough to watch this live show, they probably watched the movie.
Okay, that's a good point.
This is the spoiler warning. There it is.
I was like, I don't know how to talk about this movie without sort of giving away where it goes. But
oh no, the creepy kid kills Benedict Cumberbatch.
If you don't talk about where it ends up, there's nothing to talk about.
Yes,
yes,
100%, Jeanette, for sure. So, so what really clicked with me is that Jane Campion, through that character of Peter Gordon, the son, which is no joke, my dad's name. My dad's name is Peter Gordon.
Nice.
So the first thing, before you even see a frame of the film, you hear his voiceover, and it's the only time I think there's voiceover in the movie, and he says something like that he needs to help his mother, and what kind of man would he be if he didn't protect and help his mother and ensure her happiness. And so you're kind of told before you even see a frame of the movie exactly what the sort of central thrust of the movie is, but it's so easy to forget that as you're watching these characters kind of orbit around each other and enter each other's lives and affect one another. And so I was already on the second watch, like clued in, like, okay, like, you know, we're being told that that Peter, the son, will do anything to protect his mom. And it makes, when you first watch the movie, the dynamic between him and Phil, Benedict Cumberbatch's character, really, it's hard to track, because as the movie progresses, you don't really know if Phil's sort of sudden shift to kindness is remotely genuine or not, because he's been caught in the act, right?
Mhm.
When Cody Smit-McPhee, when Peter Gordon sees him in the woods, and
Mhm.
so you're saying, okay, well, there's definitely a shift in dynamic, and is this, how much of this is sort of self-protection on Phil's part? How much of it is him sort of seeing something in himself in the way that, and I can't wait to talk about Bronco Henry with you guys, the best unseen character in all of movies, Bronco Henry, the legend. But yeah, there's just so many layers to it, where there is I think a kernel of something really genuine there, where Phil might see in Peter's more sort of like quiet, understated, effeminate nature,
Mhm.
these repressed parts of himself. But there's that tension of like, well, how much of this are you just trying to control, people finding out, what Peter's seen and so forth. So I find that and that's only the last like 40 minutes or so of the movie where that kind of where that dynamic shifts. Everything up until then, we're kind of jumping between Cumberbatch and Jesse Plemons as his brother, and Kirsten Dunst as the mom / Jesse Plemons' wife, and so yeah, it clued in for me a little bit, well, a lot more when you see it the second time, because initially I wasn't sure sort of where we were headed. I feel like I'm rambling, Matt. Cut me
Oh no,
off.
no, this is great.
Okay.
You're making me not understand the movie, but yeah, appreciate it maybe a little bit more. But it kind of, I guess, leads into the next thing I wanted to ask, which was, what did everyone think this movie was about until the ending happened? And specifically, am I the only one who had to use Google to find out what the ending was or meant? Or did everyone else kind of figure it out? Like, my experience was, he died. This is very abrupt. Why didn't Peter go to the funeral? Why does he look happy? What's with the rope? And then all of a sudden, Google had to tell me everything that happened and connect the dots. Although I was on painkillers from a tooth being removed, so maybe that's why I wasn't paying total attention. But whatever. So the ending to me just kind of came out of nowhere, but then I could reflect on the movie and see definitely how all the pieces were there and how they did all come together. And that just really put me in a place of, like, was it earned? Like, is it a good story just because everything did eventually come together in a way that I didn't expect? I don't know. I'm very conflicted about the ending. So I want to hear everyone else's experiences with how you interpreted it the first time around and how it made you feel, if anything. Yeah, we'll start with Lauren.
Yeah, I actually had to look it up as well, because I don't know where I found that he died of anthrax, or what. I mean, they say it in the movie, but I was like, how did that happen? And I said, oh, it's when he went to do the rabbit. Maybe he got bitten by the rabbit. I don't know. I didn't put two and two together. Maybe because I couldn't remember the beginning part where he says that about his mom. Mm-hmm. Because I really struggled with the beginning of the film. Like, it was really hard. I have a hard time. I'm not a big Western fan, so when I found out it was a Western, I'm like, oh. So that was a big thing. But when I read about it and realized what it was about, I actually liked the film better. That's why I think when I'm saying that I enjoyed the film, looking back and kind of putting all the pieces together, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. But my first thing was that I just thought it was about, like, what's his name? Phil was like a closeted gay man and had an obsession with his brother, and then it's shifted to Bronco Henry, and so I thought, I don't know, I just thought, is this the life of a closeted gay man in Montana? Where was it? Montana, Nebraska, wherever it was. So I don't know. I just thought it just kind of like it did for me. It ended abruptly, but then when I read about it, I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it.
Well, Jeanette?
So I got it. I mean, I got the ending. I got the intention. I knew that he got the skin from the cow, and that was intentional. I think I didn't know that when it was happening. This dumb kid touching this diseased animal, and then you think back and you're like, oh, the bull castration scene, and like he says that he never touches the diseased animal, and like it's all there if you remember, if you can keep awake and remember what's going on. But like I got that, and I kind of was just wondering, like, because whenever he gives her the whenever he gives him the hide, I don't know that he knows he's gonna make the rope out of it, right? Doesn't he just give it to him? He's like, you know.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just sorry, having a little audio issue. 1 second. There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You
Anyway,
give him the hide after. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think
I got.
Also polite.
I think they gave him the hide after he, Phil was like screaming about his mom, and I think that was probably the tipping point.
Mm.
Yeah, so I mean, like I entirely got it, but I just was kind of like, well, this would have just been a lot better if this had kind of been known earlier, and we could have gotten some time to simmer in this and really kind of enjoy that storyline. Because as soon as I found that out, I was like, well, no, now I want to know more. Now I want to know.
Yeah, well, I guess going to one of the things that Ben said that I thought was great was pointing out how there's multiple shifts in perspective. And I wanted to ask, like, who do we think the main character is? Do we think it's Benedict Cumberbatch's story, or do we think it's creepy kid Peter's story? Yeah. Or
Benedict is nominated for lead actor.
That's true. He's
kind of the main guy. I think it's the first Jane Campion movie too with a male lead. She has a lot of great male characters in her films, but it's sort of like a shift for her too. But it's also weird because even though he's all over the posters and he's the lead actor, it kind of is framed like the son, like Cody Smit-McPhee's / Peter's story, but he's also not there for long stretches.
Oh no,
and then Jesse Plemons is gone for long stretches too. It's weird.
That's the thing. There's just they're in and they're out, and like Benedict is definitely the one with the most screen time, who's sort of like the anchor that's keeping the story going. But then I do think that the fact that it is bookended really with Peter, and that Peter is like looking back such a not present character, it just makes me question like who is at the heart of this. I'm guessing it's mostly Peter because of that whole thing with him saying that he's going to protect his mom at all costs, and then in retrospect that's what the entire movie is about. Although at the same time maybe I'm not remembering things properly because again I watched it once and I was on the tooth removal painkillers, but from what I recall, I feel like Phil was just kind of a jerk to Peter as opposed to posing any kind of immediate threat to the mom in a way that would motivate him to have to kill him, I guess, as a payoff to what he says in the opening, or it's like, I'm going to protect my mother because what kind of man would I be if I didn't? And I think the obvious story to tell would be him focusing in and being like super analytical and judgmental of the guy that she marries, like Jesse Plemons, but then he's just kind of there being fine, a stand-up gentleman. And then I'm like, is all of this, is it really because he's trying to protect the mom, or is it because Benedict Cumberbatch ruined his pretty paper flower at the beginning? Like, what is the deal there?
Well, I wanted to ask, but in the ending, how we get this storyline peppered throughout about either the having to be closeted at the time, or whether it's the storyline about the kid trying to kill him to protect the mom. But then I feel like peppered in too is also the storyline that I'm talking about that I wanted to see more of as soon as we got to the end, which was the kid is killing animals, which, I mean, if you've read one true crime book, you've read them all, and they'll tell you that serial killers love to kill small animals when they're young. So, like, where is that? And, like, that's peppered in there, and that's part of the ending. It's all like a little package deal there at the end. But I'm like, well, I mean, couldn't you have clued us in about this like 20 minutes ago and given us a little more of this storyline? Because he obviously was practicing to get to a human victim, and then that's what he did.
Well,
So
I
it's
thought it
like,
was because he was studying to be a surgeon. I thought he was away at college studying to be a doctor and a surgeon. So I never thought of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that he's like completely sound-minded and that we should be like totally fine, you know, like giving a man, because he is like, he has no real remorse, right? Like he shows his mom the rabbit and she's like, oh my God, it's a cute little bunny. And she's like, oh, look at it. And then the next time we see it, it's like splayed out on his desk, and you know,
so sad,
taking it apart, and you know, or how he breaks the neck of the other. But he's really mean to bunnies. But
I know.
yeah.
so many bunnies.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was another thing that I thought. I felt like it was in some ways serial killer origin story, a little bit, just reflecting back on everything, like everything that's set up. It's, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm not clear totally on what the story is meant to be, because for a while it felt like it was a little bit of what I call Me by Your Brokeback Mountain, like a little bit of Brokeback Mountain, a little bit of Call Me by Your Name. And once that picked up, I was like, okay, finally something is happening plot wise that's interesting. And then it kind of took a total turn, which I think I would have liked more if I felt like I was watching the Peter story more so than the Phil story. But yeah, let's talk about Ben. What was his name? The greatest unseen character, Bronco
Henry, baby.
Bronco Henry. So why don't you open, Ben? Tell us about Bronco Henry. Like, what was your interpretation of that character and his relationship with Phil specifically? Like, what do we think that was?
The man, the myth.
Yes.
The Bronco Henry.
Bronco Henry.
We don't know anything, you know, we never see Bronco Henry. He's just sort of an enigma. He's this mythical man. We can picture him as like the ultimate cowboy when we hear about him, because Phil doesn't seem to have any reverence for anyone around him at all in the movie, but he does have this reverence for Bronco Henry, who was a rancher who showed him how to ranch, like to be a rancher, to be a real cowboy, to be a man's man. And we don't know much about Bronco Henry, but we know that he did have some salacious magazines that Phil now keeps stored away. And he had a scarf embroidered with his name that Phil likes to kind of rub on his face when he's alone. Sorry, you might hear Abby. Hey, come on. We're doing a YouTube right now. So we don't know much about him, but he represents, I think, sort of that like mythic ideal of the cowboy. And ultimately, it's kind of a tragic relationship we can kind of surmise from the movie, in that, you know, I think that from watching it, that Phil likely really discovered in a lot of ways who he was, and you know, things about his sexuality through his relationship with Bronco Henry. But the repression of that in the landscape of the Western, and it having to be a real cowboy, it seems to it's held in so tight by Benedict Cumberbatch, by Phil in the movie, that it ends up kind of exploding outward. And so he's just this real bully, right? When we meet him, and we really hate him. He's making fun of Peter, and he's kind of antagonizing Kirsten Dunst's character, Rose, I think is her name. And she's practicing because Jesse Plemons is all excited about this dinner party, which is the most awkward dinner party in film history. And Phil's there to antagonize, and we get the sense that maybe Phil, if he didn't have to repress so much of who he was, he wouldn't be filled with so much resentment, and he wouldn't be lashing out so harshly. And so we have maybe a bit of Bronco Henry to blame for that. Not to take all the responsibility away from Phil, but he represents, I think, the kind of ideal in Benedict's mind in the movie, and we never get to see him. Do you guys have an idea in your head of like who Bronco Henry looks like, or like
Sam
who
Elliott
could have played him? I was gonna say 100% my answer, Matt.
Was that your answer?
Sam Elliott. That's why he's mad, I bet, right now.
Because he didn't get to play Bronco.
Yeah, he wanted to be Bronco Henry, and he didn't get to be.
Well said. Yeah, no, like
I think that it definitely Bronco Henry having that moment where they had to get naked and that was like a revelatory moment for Phil, and then Bronco Henry dies and he doesn't have that anymore, and it just makes him bitter, and he latches onto his brother because his brother is the only person that he kind of feels anything for. And then Rose gets into his life, and then he sees Peter, and I think that my interpretation of his becoming friends with Peter was more that I think that he was trying to dig at at Rose, but at the same time, I do think that he kind of, felt like maybe there could be something there, because they're calling him names and all these things that right before that, and I don't know. I think he just needed to get something making his life a little less bitter.
Yeah, I kind of got the vibe that it was almost like he was stepping into the shoes, or dare I say cowboy boots, of Bronco Henry, and just kind of continuing a cycle of questionable minor grooming between him and Peter. And then when I thought that was what the movie was going to be about, at least something was happening. I was like, okay, well, something's happening, but this feels inappropriate, and it feels like there's not going to be any accountability for him taking advantage of essentially a child in a vulnerable position. And then the fact that it did kind of turn around, and that Peter was manipulating that like vulnerability from Phil's side. That's something that I found interesting. That was more, I think, conceptual than what was actually on the screen. Although I guess it was on the screen. It just, I had to think and do the work to have that interpretation for myself.
Did anyone else have to question whether, like, I didn't know if it was really Benedict Cumberbatch who was dealing with repression or anything, because when he goes in there, those books say Bronco on them. So they were Bronco's books. And I was like, well, he has them tucked away. Are they his like, is he keeping them because they're Broncos, or because of what they are, or both? And like, so there was a question in my mind to some degree. And that's why I was like, is he really just trying to take care of this kid? Is he trying to teach him how to ranch? Like, because the kid had skill, because he brought him out and the kid saw the thing in the mountains, and he's like, oh my God, you can see that. And I'm like, oh, well, he's just he sees the skill in the kid. So like, I was questioning that. And to a degree, that's what was keeping me interested, to the point that I was interested. I was like, questioning what the plot is a way to get you to keep watching the movie.
That's true.
Like, it's not an enjoyable, like Lauren said, maybe I liked it, but it was painful. Like, to me, that, and I even, when I messaged Matt about it, I was like pulling teeth to find a plot in this movie. I was like, And then like it is frustrating when you think you have it and then that's not it. And another thing that kind of kept me on my toes, I guess, not that I want to have to work to watch a movie, but like thinking is fine, but working is different. Is the way the time was chopped up, more so at the beginning of the film, somewhat towards the end, I guess, like whenever he's dying. But at the beginning of the film, the way they chopped up the time and like didn't timestamp it, and I'm like, I don't need to be spoon fed, but at the same time, I am kind of like, what the hell is happening? I was like, they got married. I mean, I know stuff happens fast, but like, am I supposed to believe that time has passed or that this is inordinately quick? I don't know. Nobody's told me if anybody's shocked at this revelation or what. It's just happening.
We don't see those moments, right? We don't see the wedding. We're just told about the wedding. You know, we don't see Cumberbatch die.
Yeah.
He's just driven off and then he's dead.
But just give me some point on the horizon where I'm like, oh, okay, there. I know that, like, yes, this is happening very quick and I should be shocked. Or, oh, a few months have passed by. Okay, I get it. Like,
yeah, it did. It went, but yeah, it was very fast. It was very, lots
fast
of
and slow at the same time.
Yes, well said.
I definitely picked up on him being a repressed gay man at the beginning. Like, I don't know why. Maybe it's because
like when he was talking about Bronco and revering him.
Yeah, and just the relationship with the brother, and I just got it right away. That part I got right away, and then they kept having these like, all the cowboys were getting naked and everything like that, and I was like, oh, okay, there's a message in here. There's a message. I don't know quite where it's going to go, but it's definitely about repressed homosexuality, and so yeah, I got that. I don't know, maybe it's because when I was younger and closeted, I knew what kind of how grumpy you can get, or like just kind of your mindset and things like that. So maybe I just clued into that.
Interesting. And kind of to jump off of that, how do we feel about this movie within the lens of being a Western? Like, do we think it is could it be categorized as a Western film, or is it just a drama that takes place in a certain time and place? Like, I'm curious to know how everyone categorizes Westerns and if this fits into that mold. Like, just jumping off of what Lauren said, and to go back to something that Ben said, the whole thing about how Benedict Cumberbatch is kind of in a place where there's like this toxic masculinity vibe, but then it's causing a lot of repression, which is something that I think does fit into not necessarily the Western genre, but it's kind of like a reaction to what the classic Western is. But yeah, what are people's thoughts on, is this a Western, is basically my question. Let's go, which way? Ben.
Yeah, I think this totally fits into the category of a Western, but I think it's exactly how you put it, in that it's reacting to, I think, a genre and a history. And I think it's rare that we see Westerns directed by women too. I know that we're starting to get a little bit more as we move through time, but it's rare to get that kind of perspective on what's normally such a masculine, testosterone fueled genre. But I always just think of a Western when if you see people with cowboy hats and horses and there's big ranches and vistas, it is fascinating though too that none of it was shot in America, right? It was all shot in New Zealand. And that also kind of lends it a weird, like, kind of surrealness almost, where I don't know that like everybody's like, oh, that's New Zealand, but it doesn't really feel like Montana. It almost feels a little heightened, But Westerns, I guess, have always kind of been that way, where they're really like, they love to glamorize these like landscapes and these vistas, and but they are very traditionally just very, very masculine and very tough and very like, let's like, kind of celebrate the American masculine ideal. It's a reason that they run them constantly on like Turner Classic Movies, and my grandfather will sit there and just like wash over them. There's something that like I think that audiences used to especially really yearn for in those, but they also aren't without their problems, and things that we have to kind of look at with a critical eye. And I think that Jane Campion, who's never made really a Western before, I think this is totally you could totally categorize this as a Western, but it's through a very like specific prism that is also, like you said, Matt, is reacting to what's come before it.
Yeah, like I think it's interesting you mentioned the landscape, because that's such a big part of Westerns. At least, well, I say like I've studied Westerns. I haven't. But last year I watched The Searchers and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for another movie marathon. That was more Westerns than I ever cared to watch in a short amount of time. But in watching both of those, like it felt to me like the Western genre at least became a thing because people were interested in that sort of not too distant history, and also the whole idea of surviving in a very like vast open terrain. So I think like landscapes are definitely a huge part of it. And yeah, when I think of Westerns, like one of the big things that links, say, The Searchers, like the John Ford style Westerns, which are much more glamorized, I think, versus the spaghetti Western styles, is that they are mostly about survival stories as opposed to character stories. So I think it's interesting seeing something that could be classified as a Western like this, which has nothing really to do with survival in that sense, and is more just about the people in the landscapes, because landscape is such a big part of it. But yeah, Jeanette, how about you? What are your thoughts? Is it a Western?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Western. The novel that it's based on was intended to be a Western, but I also can't help but notice that the novel came out in 1967. And I don't know, sometimes the way things are interpreted later can make it read for that generation, and that's great. I don't know that the novel was intended to have the homosexual repression subtext. I can't speak to that because I've never read it and I don't know anything about the author. But coming out in 1967, I wouldn't be surprised if it was supposed to, because that was like towards the end of or in the middle of the summer, like the whole summer of love, and like that, the late 60s kind of just free love. And I feel like coming out of that, maybe writing about the sexual taboos that still existed even after something like that, and writing about what what wouldn't have been very far in the past at that point, would have only been like 40 years past, 40 and some change, So it's a Western, but I also feel like, and again, I don't know if it was intended to be, but it is also political commentary.
Ooh, interesting. I had no idea this was written in the 60s. That puts into such a fascinating
And this is the first film adaptation. So.
So yeah, the 60s to that's like as far away from us as the 80s is now, I think, if math is right. That's weird.
Well, and the story's based in the 20s, right? So
wow. So in 40 years, we'll have a weird, subtle Western drama about the 2020s.
It's coming.
Fascinating.
Mark
it will.
Your calendars.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Lauren, and what do you think? Is it a Western?
Well, considering the fact that when I started the film, I thought, oh my God, it's a Western. I probably think that it's a Western. I don't know. I mean, I almost think that it had to be a Western, like it had to be set in a place where, men were men, and I guess they could have had it in a pool hall or whatever, but I don't know, it wouldn't have made as much sense. And I think that I think it almost had to have been a Western, but like what Jeanette was saying with political commentary.
Well said. So I'm gonna check the comments here. Eliza, my mom's cat, just says, Eliza, the invitation is open. There you go.
Some cat comments, yeah.
Right? Yeah, sound off in the comments, all 6 of you. Like, what are your thoughts on this film? If you watched it, and if you didn't, just let us know why not. But now, something I think is interesting about this movie is that it's, I think, the most Oscar-nominated movie of the entire season, which is interesting. Do we think it deserves it? I guess, for lack of a better term, or lack of a better question. Do we think that this is truly a movie that is excelling in craft as well as performance, like everything on an equal level? Because I don't want to say that this movie to me feels very much like Oscar bait, but it kind of does. Actually, I'm just going to say it. This to me feels like a textbook example of an Oscar bait movie, where it's undeniably a good movie, but is it the best movie? I wouldn't say so myself. I can recognize that everything in it is well done. Like, I think the cinematography, for example, which I think is nominated for cinematography, it just seems like it would, because there's a lot of landscapes.
Pretty much nominated for
all
any
the
basic
things.
award that it can be nominated for.
I wanted to see what it was
12
actually
nominations.
nominated for. Editing, sound, production design, cinematography, score, director, all the acting categories.
Adapted screenplay.
Yeah, and adapted screenplay. Wow.
Yeah, I know, everything. So what is it about this movie, or this type of movie, that we think resonates with the Academy and the people who make these choices, as opposed to the general public that fuels the movie making industry with their money? Because I don't think this would be at the top of everyone's list to get the most nominations. In fact, the Academy even put out a poll saying, what movie do you think should have won? And Amazon's Cinderella came in like number 2. So that's another conversation. But yeah, like, what is it about this movie? I think
it's the power of the dog, Matt.
That's true. It is the power of the dog.
Yes, exactly. I think it's partially the what do you call it? I think the actors probably like it when other actors challenge themselves. Like, this was a very different role for Benedict Cumberbatch.
Sure.
You know, probably for Kirsten Dunst, and all that. So I think that played heavily, along with a kind of a well-respected director. And I think that that also helped as well. And I think there were just different levels that played into why this film did so well. You know, I always have a challenge with the Academy, because I feel like, you know, the more the more that we get into, I mean, the Academy tends to nominate films that nobody knows or remembers. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. You know, like you were saying, there are other films that probably deserve, nominations over this one. And, like, I ultimately like this film, but yeah, I don't think it necessarily deserved all of the nominations, especially not score. I hated the score. Hated it. I hated that score so much.
Well, the score, although I will say I couldn't hum it for you right now, but I remember being aware of the score throughout the movie, which is more than we could say about last week's movie, Don't Look Up, which I think it was also nominated for score. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah. I remember the score, but unfortunately, I remember it as being horrible.
Yes. Well said.
Johnny Greenwood did 3 scores this year, at least, for movies, because he did this. He did Spencer, the Princess Diana, Kristen Stewart movie. He did the score too, and he also did Licorice Pizza, which didn't have a lot of incidental score in it. It was mostly needle drops, but he's a busy guy, that Johnny Greenwood. I've liked other ones more than this one, but he did do a little kind of riff that I liked through this movie. It's like at the beginning and the end, pops up sometimes. It's like, a banjo. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's like, I like that.
Oh yeah, it had its moments. It had its moments. So Ben, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this as like the most nominated film of the year?
Abby, hold on a second. Okay, she's feeding me. It's like a mouthpiece here. She, I'm actually fascinated that that you describe it as Oscar bait, because when I think of Oscar bait, I normally think of movies that are like really pandering, like in an emotional way, like movies that feel dishonest, that get like loads of nominations because they're just like, they kind of hit the right notes, but they're a little bit like, a lot of the times they feel kind of like they're going for something a little cheap, or it's like, I don't know,
like
if
Shakespeare in Love.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that in like 20 some odd years, you know.
Ugh,
but
worst Oscar sweep ever.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like that's a movie, and actually a lot of movies, like produced by he who shall not be named, like Shakespeare in Love, a lot of those have that reputation, like of being, that they feel almost like they're made to be campaigned and they're made to win awards. And this movie, to me, although I get that it is very serious, and it's, it's a very serious movie, and it's, shot really elegantly, and there are these big performances by guys like Cumberbatch, who I'd love to ask you guys about too, with Cumberbatch specifically, because he's an actor that I find a lot of people I talk to are kind of like, he's a chilly presence generally, and they don't respond to him. But they really responded to him here because he's kind of doing something.
We're getting there, Ben. There's gotta be a whole.
Cool. We're getting, really muted performances too. Like, I think that pretty much everyone else in the movie is doing, something kind of tempered, and so it, in some ways, like it fits the mold of what you'd expect in an Oscar movie, but it never occurred to me as a movie that like Jane Campion was like, I'm going to win me some awards with this one. Maybe, but she hasn't made it. She also hasn't made a feature film in so long. I think it's been since 2009 or 10 with Bright Star, which was a movie about, I want to say Keats. I haven't seen it in so long, but and then she did like a couple mini series. She did Top of the Lake with Elizabeth Moss. And Top of the Lake China Girl, which was the sequel series to that. But she hasn't made a movie in so long that I think that she only is really making features when she's really driven by story. And I think that she, from what I've heard, she read this book not interested in it as like a film project. I think she picked it up and read it and couldn't get the story out of her head. And I think that there's things about human behavior that she's very interested in, and that resonate with her, that I think make the movie, a valid movie to be discussed in the Oscars. I don't know. See, the thing is I don't know that like it being nominated the most means it's the best either. Like, I bet if you go through the years of, the most nominated movie, like you'd be like, oh, that's an interesting movie to get the most nominations. But it kind of checks the boxes off. And maybe that's what you mean, man. And then it's like, oh, it kind of has all the elements of a movie that, would, be recognized by the Academy in that way. But I think it's a more surprising, like it's kind of, I'm actually kind of surprised that the Academy was so warm on it, because it is not a sentimental movie. It's not a movie that really pulls at your heartstrings. It's a movie that, like you guys described earlier, kind of makes you do the work a little bit, and it doesn't, you have to kind of meet it where it is, and it's not always like a hugely enjoyable experience,
Yeah, Jeanette, what do you think?
So I'll take a couple of the nominations individually. I'll say Jesse Plemons, I'm on board with 100%. I want him in more serious roles. I love him when he's in serious roles. I don't know. I really like him as an actor. I think he's got a lot of range that maybe he's not always given credit for, and this is the credit. So here it is. He was the parts of that movie that I enjoyed watching because it felt really genuine. And like, I've always, so on to the next one, Kirsten Dunst. I really don't, first of all, I will say, even though I am not a big Kirsten Dunst fan, I think she peaked at however old she was when she did an interview with the vampire, and then it's all been downhill from there. So yeah, I mean, that was the best thing she's ever done, hands down.
She's good in that.
Jumanji.
Yeah. No, well, that's what I'm saying. That was her second best performance, and it kept getting worse. Bring It On, a little bit. It's okay.
What about Dick?
Melancholia. It's great.
So, but one thing that bothers me is she is not nominated as the lead actress. She's nominated as a supporting actress, and I'm like, don't see the justice there at all. That seems really inaccurate. I'm like, she gets almost as much screen time as Benedict Cumberbatch, more than Plemons. Plemons is obviously the supporting actor. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Adapted screenplay. I don't care for the screenplay. If what's going on screen being the screenplay is any indication of the screenplay, I'm like, I don't like this. So I'm out on that one. Score, again, it was just the two movies I think that are really battling it out for score is Dune and Encanto. I think that's where you're gonna have your major fight for that. So score I'm out on. Cinematography and editing, like, obviously it's great, and that's where I feel like it kind of starts this whole, like you said, like checking boxes thing. Like, yes, it can cover at least 4 technical awards easily. It's gorgeous. It's a really pretty film, and it does a great job of like showing life then, which I like. I like when a movie feels historically accurate. I'll find a spot every episode this Oscar season to bring up. I think the movie that did that the best this year was The Last Duel. I'm just saying, that's the most underrated.
That movie is awesome. That is an awesome movie, and not enough people talked about it. And you're absolutely right.
Nobody.
That movie's great.
Anyway, okay, so that's where that, I'm like, that deserves all these awards that it's not nominated for. All those ones that this is getting nominated for. And then the juicy bits for last. Benedict Cumberbatch was the casting was wrong. The acting was not fabulous. I cannot buy Benedict Cumberbatch as a butthead. I can't buy him as the bad guy. I can't buy him as the mean guy. It doesn't work for me. I'm like, you could have picked 18 other men that would suit this role way better. Speaking of The Last Duel, honestly, I think if you were going to have faux Damon be the brother, that's what I call Jesse Plemons. If you're going to get faux Damon as the brother, then you could have just gotten Matt Damon as Benedict Cumberbatch's character. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen that. As a younger take on it, I would have loved to have seen Evan Peters. I think he could have killed this role. But I think Evan Peters isn't given a lot of roles that he could kill. So that's just me.
If you're going to go that's where I stand on full Damon.
I like Benedict Cumberbatch, actually. I actually thought that it was a good kind of opportunity for him to stretch his wings. And I bought into it. I thought that he was one of the better parts of the movie, personally.
Yeah, like he held the movie. He did what he had to do. I just felt like it was a dependably good Benedict Cumberbatch performance that wasn't remarkable in any way. Like I said, well, not to anyone here except for Jeanette. I think I messaged it to you. I said, like, I don't want this to be the movie he wins his Oscar for. Much like other people in the past who like deserve Oscars have won for roles I don't think that they should have gotten them for. Like Emma, La La Land, that one, Cruella de Vil. Stone, yeah. That's not the movie that she should have gotten the Oscar for.
Or Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant. I'm like,
yeah.
Of all the
no,
I know of all the movies.
You're
the
right.
Revenant. There it is. But
he
like
looks
I think
at the camera at the end of that movie and he's like, "Give me an Oscar, please." Like that's how he ends The Revenant. It's my time. Give me Oscar.
Then they're just give me Oscar. Then they're just like, sure, why not? And I think the same. I didn't see her movie, but I think the same thing happened with Kate Winslet and The Reader. Is that what she won for? I've heard that wasn't the one that she should have won for. So it just seems to be a thing. I think the one thing that I think sells me on Benedict Cumberbatch in this role, thinking again, because I don't just instinctively think this, I had to reflect on the movie. Since there is all this emphasis given to the fact that he is a very highly educated person who is doing the job that he's doing, I think Benedict suits that perfectly. And like the disconnect between him as an actor and having certain qualities that I just can't turn off, like his intelligence, basically. Like that's something that Kenneth Branagh told Tom Hiddleston when he turned him down for Thor, because Tom Hiddleston was going to be Thor, or he auditioned for it. He was like, I can't cast you because you come off as too intelligent, so we're going to give you Loki. And that's just what I had in my head for Benny in this. Like, Benedict just has this natural intelligence to him that I think worked against him in a way that was story appropriate, but still didn't engage me. Yeah,
I was really impressed by him in this. Like, usually I'm kind of like, I like him in things, you know. I think it's rare that I see him in a movie that I'm like, oh, he really didn't seem suited to it. It is an odd choice because he's not, when you think of like American cowboy rancher man, you definitely don't think of Benedict Cumberbatch. You know?
And he's just,
But
yeah.
he's really like, but there is, I think he uses a kind of icy quality he has to his advantage. And I think that he also knows how to play like a really small, tiny little kernel of vulnerability in there that's like buried under all of this resentment and anger. And I think he's good at making you loathe him early on, but making him fascinating to watch as a character. You know, if anything, his sort of like chaos, I don't know if the word chaos is correct, but what he's bringing to the movie and his energy and him kind of upending the lives of the Gordon family, my ancestors, I think I think that's what kept me really engaged and locked into the movie. And it was really the ensemble as a whole. I think their performances are all strong, but his kind of turn in this, like, it almost reminded me. It's not as memorable or strong as a performance like Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, but it's a similar kind of like very like toxic, fascinating man. And I think he makes a meal out of it with this movie. So I don't know, if he won, I wouldn't be mad about it. I'd be like, all right, you know, go Benny.
Yeah. You know, you just made me think of somebody else who might have been really good. Is Christian Bale.
Oh, yeah.
Christian Bale could have probably knocked that out.
He can do anything, Christian Bale. I love Christian
I would
Bale.
fully agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Because when you were talking about that, I was thinking of American Psycho and how you don't like, yeah, that character's doing a lot of crazy things, but you actually don't always see him do it. And like, it's you have to be so subdued. And I was like, oh yeah, he's really good at doing that whole subdued thing. So
yeah.
Like, I'm curious, what does everyone think is an Oscar-worthy performance? Because I think there are a couple different types of performances that get nominated, and the ones that seem to have the most success are the very underplayed ones, very similar to what we see from Benedict in this, the ones that are very subtle and don't, like, I almost want to say, and I don't necessarily mean this, but I kind of do, performances that I think are equally attributed to editing as they are to the actor. Whereas I personally like performances that capture things that actors can probably only do like one or two times. Like, that's what I find the most fascinating, like more theatrical performances, like what we saw from Denzel in Macbeth and what we saw from Andrew Garfield in Tick, Tick, Boom, who is my pick for best actor, even though I don't like him as an actor. He's my pick. But like, those are the kind of performances that I find the most engaging, where you just allow the camera to capture something amazing that this individual is doing, as opposed to constructing a performance through subtlety and a little bit through editing. But yeah, what are people's thoughts? Like, what do you think is an Oscar-worthy performance? You can use examples or just like speak in broad strokes.
I'll go. So I have favorite actors, but but we all know that even with our favorite actors, like, not every performance they should be nominated for an Oscar. Like, that's just, you know, like, and also, like, I think Javier Bardem is an Oscar-worthy actor. Do I think he gave an Oscar-worthy performance in Being the Ricardos? Absolutely not. I haven't seen King Richard. I totally agree with the Denzel nomination. Honestly, on this list this year, I'd give it to Denzel. And Ben will probably agree with me on this too. Someone who's not listed, Matt Damon, probably should have been nominated for this, for Last Duel. So,
Mm.
and then like historically a performance, and I think he won. I do know it was a super nominated movie. I do think he won, but I know he was nominated, is I think one that stands out for me is Tom Hulce in Amadeus. I feel like you said, like every time he's doing anything in that movie, I'm like, oh, that was pure energy. That was just pure character, pure energy coming out of the character. And that's an actor who, while he's done plenty of things, like I don't know that there's too many performances other than that people are like, oh yeah, that's the guy. Like, you know, and that really stands out on his card in his career, I feel. So that's how I feel about Oscar performances and where this movie in particular stands. I would give it to Denzel over Cumberbatch for sure.
Denzel was a great Macbeth. Did you do a Macbeth episode, Matt? Or
Not yet. I want to. It'll probably be like a week or two after the Oscars.
I want your Shakespeare stuff. I want it. I want live panels.
It'll happen.
That's all like fantastic points from you guys. Like it's hard to kind of pinpoint, like in a broad sense, like what's an Oscar worthy performance. I think it can be a bunch of different things, and it's like, is the role suiting the needs? Is the performance suiting the needs of the role, right? Sometimes it's going big, sometimes it's pulling it back and it's restraint. For me, I always love, when actors make someone truly memorable, when you remember a character based on their performance and who they play. They don't necessarily need to stretch who they are, or, because a lot of times I think what does get nominated is like, if you pile on like prosthetics and makeup and it's like, wow, they look just like them, and they disappear and they do a good job with all the makeup on. It's like, yeah, but equally so you can see really nuanced, really subtle performances from great actors, and then there's actors that, like, I mean, the guy I keep thinking of in terms of someone who I feel like should have been nominated a couple years ago was Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. I don't know if you guys saw that movie.
Yeah.
But he made that role so memorable to me, and he didn't have to stretch too far. It's not like he disappeared, but I'll never forget Howie Bling from Uncut Gems. Speaking of which, Matt, I've never told you this, but I always get a bit of a Safdie vibe from you. I don't know if you're familiar with the Safdie brothers who made that movie, but Benny Safdie specifically, who's also an actor. I'm like, that's like a Matt type. Like, I'll send you like video of him. And like,
do it.
Okay, because I'm like, I want people now to cast you in all these kinds of roles and stuff. But back to your point anyway. I think that it's really about is the performance serving the role, and it really helps if that role is made memorable by the performance. Yeah.
Said, Lauren, what are your thoughts?
I like actors who make me feel something. Like, take for instance Tom Hanks in Philadelphia. That was a big role that I thought was a good one that and also memorable, like Ben was saying. But I don't know, like I want to feel something. I thought that Benedict Cumberbatch was really good in the movie. I don't think that he necessarily deserves the Oscar because he didn't necessarily make me feel, I don't know, maybe it made me feel rage. I mean, I was like so angry at him all the time. I mean, I actually agree with you that Andrew Garfield, to me, deserves it because it was a little bit different for him, and it definitely made me feel something. So, and I just like, I want the Oscars to be a little bit more accessible as well, and I think that is also an accessible role that most people can enjoy.
Yeah, like I think, I mean, I've always said what I would like to see in an Oscar-worthy performance, but I like one of my biggest gripes with the nominations for this movie is Kirsten Dunst getting the nomination over, well, not even like it was a competition because she was never in the running, which is a travesty, over Catherine Hunter in Macbeth, which I think is one of the best performances I've seen in ages. And I want Ariana DeBose to win for Best Supporting Actress for many of the same reasons I want Catherine Hunter to be nominated. Because just going back to what I was saying, that I think these awards should be there to acknowledge people who are giving quality performances that literally only they can do for one reason or another. And just seeing what Catherine Hunter did, like she literally stretched herself into shapes that people shouldn't be able to do.
That performance, it like to not. I know we're not. This isn't the Macbeth episode. I understand, but like while we're here, it's that performance. Like you don't. I am not a Shakespeare fan. I am not particularly a fan of any one person in that film to any like high degree to some point where I'm like a fanatic about them or something. I could watch that performance like over and over. It's the reason I want to keep watching the movie. It's like, I mean, like I just want to gobble it up. It's so good. That performance, and she's not even
amazing
on the list. I'm like, what the heck?
I know, and I think she was lobbied for it. They put her forward for everything, just for whatever reason, and I'm guessing it's Oscar politics. That's just not what made its way into the running. And then we have Kirsten Dunst giving, I feel,
I don't know
again, like a
people.
decent but not outstanding performance. And yeah. Well, I need to do a Macbeth show. There's so much to discuss for that movie. Anyway, yeah, those are my thoughts. Yeah. Anything else that we want to discuss about the acting? Did we like Peter, aka Paranorman?
Paranorman.
Yeah, he voiced Paranorman. Apparently,
I mean, I thought that it was. I liked him okay. I thought that he was good. Like, he was definitely creepy.
Yeah, he fit. I was gonna say he fit the role. They got somebody who definitely like physically fit the role. And then past that, I don't think you really had to do much, right? Like,
you're gonna hate me for this, but I'm not the only person that said this. But I've mixed him up for a long time with Asa Butterfield. Like they're the same person in my brain. And so I was like, oh, Asa Butterfield was so good. You're like, no, this is a different boy.
Different boy.
Yeah.
Like I know there's probably a 10 at least year age discrepancy, but he reminds me of the Flash, Ezra.
Oh yeah,
Ezra Miller. Yeah.
Yes.
I can see that.
Yeah, I think mostly
looking up all these people now. So
this role was very reminiscent of Credence from the Fantastic Beasts series, so that's just what I kept having in my head.
Ezra Miller's like a sex symbol. This kid's like mini Lurch.
It's there.
He's like wafy Lurch.
He gave an incredible performance as my father, Peter Gordon.
Yes, well done. All right, well, we'll come back to discussing the movie. Let's move on to the game. Oh, Ben, there's a game.
No way.
I was gonna say, I've been wondering how you're gonna turn this into a game. I'm like,
it was
not easy. I know.
I love games.
Yeah, so Ben, if you can get something, grab something to write with.
Okay, one sec.
Yeah.
Also, if you notice me like fidgeting and fumbling around my ears, my headphones died for a second, but I think they came back. So I just want to make sure I'm not causing any audio problems.
Oh, so far so good for me.
Okay, very good. We're live, That's what happens.
We are. I know. Anything can happen if you let it.
I love the energy of live YouTube.
Isn't it fun?
It is. It's
just
fun.
like organized chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then like you can do fun things like this. Look.
Whoa. Oh,
Oscar for the Sandman.
Sandman.
Martha wants us to talk about inventing Anna.
Oh my god, I love inventing Anna. Oh my god, that show's so good. That girl.
I gotta watch this show. This is a Shondaland show. I haven't seen it.
Oh,
I need to watch that. I've heard good things about it.
That girl from Ozark, I can never remember her darn name, but she's one of the best up and coming actors. Like, really, give that girl anything, and she can do it.
Julia Garner,
awesome.
I think is her
That's
name.
it. Yes. Oh, she's amazing.
I have no idea who this is, but I'll take your word for it. Once I'm done Pam and Tommy, which is my current favorite show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Pam and Tommy. I'm watching
so
that.
Good.
Yeah.
It airs on Disney Plus in Canada.
That's wild. That's
only on
wild.
Disney Plus.
Yeah, the greatest love
home.
story ever sold. The comments on the Facebook advertisements were infuriating but hilarious.
Yeah.
So I haven't decided what we're going to call this game or what I need you to write down. No, okay. You're going to write down roar, like an animal sound, like roar, roar,
Okay.
or
Okay.
nah, like no.
Okay.
So the game is called Raw or Nah.
Raw or not?
Yeah.
Or no.
Hey,
Oh,
have you been
no.
hanging out with Bondo?
I wish
This
he never
sounds
comes
like-
to. He never comes to
Or-
visit me in Niagara Falls.
Did I do it? Do I do it right?
You did it. You did it.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so for this game, I'm going to like list the title of a movie that has an animal in the title,
Okay.
and then it's up to you to tell me if the movie is actually about that animal, in which case
Oh,
you go
nice.
rar, or if that animal has nothing to do with the movie, in which case you go nah.
Nar.
There are some cases where it's kind of a gray zone. I tried as best as possible to avoid movies like that. Like Fish Called Wanda was on the list, but that was a little too ambiguous because there are actual fish in the movie, but Wanda's so I was like, no, too confusing.
Mm.
So like Power of the Dog, for example, there are dogs in the movie, but it's not about a dog. So that
Mhm.
would be a nah.
No.
If I were to say The Lion King, that's a rar. Okay. So raw or nah.
I love this.
Yeah. Okay, here we
Oh.
go. Feel free to play along in the chat, everyone. Remember, it's raw or nah. So the very first one, raw or nah? Lion.
That's a movie?
Yeah.
Oh, am I right? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just hold up your answer, and then once I have all the answers locked in,
Nar.
you're all
Oh,
correct. It's a
nar.
nah. It's a nah. Because of course, Lion is his name, and that's the
Mm.
twist, kind of at the end. Yeah, it was a good movie. I like Lion.
Mm.
Dev Patel, like, give him an Oscar. Okay, next, The Lion in Winter. Raw or nah? The Lion in Winter.
Nar.
Yours is like an Australian accent, Ben.
I
Nar.
know. Well, because he said rar, so I thought, oh, I'll go nar.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
nar.
that's also a nar.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
nar.
Wait, does
Woo!
everyone
I
look
thought it was-
confused? Has no one here seen The Lion in Winter?
I've never even heard of that.
No, I
We need to do Lion in Winter. Lion in Winter is amazing. It's basically Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but in a castle.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, no, Lion in Winter
Let's
is
go.
about
Let's do it.
it's about Prince John from Robin Hood and his older brother Richard, and then the middle brother Geoffrey. No one cares about Geoffrey, and it's about their parents, Richard and Eleanor. And Richard and Eleanor hate each other like so much that Richard sent Eleanor to jail because he just hated her. Except he lets her come home for Christmas. So the whole thing is about this dysfunctional royal family reunion at Christmas, where Richard and Eleanor are pitting the sons against each other to try to figure out who's going to take the throne. And
That
it's
sounds
kind
great.
of oh, it's so good. It's like an extension of the Robin Hood story, but better. It's
Ah.
amazing. And it's a play that I want to be in so badly, but who knows, one day. Next,
Someday.
Wolf.
Wolf from 1994.
I think it's either 94 or 84. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's in it.
The Nicholson movie.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike. Yeah.
Rar.
You're all right. It's a rar.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know
well,
a
turns into a
single one of
werewolf.
these movies.
He turns into a werewolf, and he's
Yeah.
like he works at a publishing house. I just watched it last
Yeah,
year.
I
And he becomes a
love it.
werewolf, and he pees on James Spader's shoes as an act of dominance, because he's becoming a wolf.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
spoiler alert, he goes "Arr!" at the end. It's great.
I
Highly
haven't
recommend
seen it.
Wolf.
I need to now, though. It sounds amazing.
Matt, you'll love it. It's ridiculous. It's great.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay, next, Dog Day Afternoon. Are there any dogs in Dog Day Afternoon?
I got a story about this, Matt.
I'm excited to hear this story, Ben. You're all right. Of course, there are no dogs in Dog Day Afternoon.
So my girlfriend, her former roommate had this dog named Scout, who is an English Springer Spaniel. And for her birthday, we like to really luxuriate with Scout. We took her to the beach to go swimming. We get her an ice cream cone. That's what we did last year. This year, what we wanted to do was Dog Day. So Dog Day morning, we were going to have a dog's breakfast, and we were going to make a breakfast and eat it on the floor with Scout. Then we're
Good.
going to watch Dog Day Afternoon in the afternoon. And then for Dog Day Evening, we were going to make we're going to do a Lady in the Tramp and do like a pasta, but no onion or garlic in the sauce because it's not good for the dogs, I've heard. But just a basic tomato sauce. And then we would eat spaghetti with Scout. We had a whole plan. So that's
amazing.
You too can have your own Dog Day.
That's not just the afternoon. I love that. No. Okay, next. Howard the Duck.
Howard.
All right. Of course, it's a Marvel movie, kind of.
He's a duck.
Yeah, and he's a duck. And he's voiced by that guy from Into the Woods, who I love, who hasn't been in anything really except for Howard the Duck. It's great. Oh, and it's the movie that destroyed Leah Thompson's career right after it was in such a great place after Back to the Future.
I loved Leah Thompson in that movie.
Oh, I have to see that movie. Which one, Back to the Future or Howard the Duck?
Howard the Duck.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Obviously in Back to the Future. But
Back to the Duck.
Back to the Duck.
Yeah, Back to the
Did you know Leah Thompson is Zoe Deutsch's mom?
Yeah.
I didn't know that until recently.
Yeah,
talent
now
in
that I
family.
know, I can kind of see it a little bit. But yeah, talented family. Well done. All right, next. Lady Bird. Is there a Lady Bird in Lady Bird?
No.
You're all correct. That's the name she gives herself. Then she's like, it's not even a name. It's a symbol. It's a lady who's a bird, and that's me. And they're like, grow up. Then at the end, she's like, no, my name's Brittany or whatever. Yeah. Hashtag Greta Gerwig. Though I did enjoy Little Women. That was a fantastic movie. That was a good
My
movie.
Little Women.
Yeah.
I love that scene when Bob Odenkirk comes in and he hugs them and the audience goes crazy because they're like, yeah, he said the line. My Little Women.
He said the thing. He said the word. Next, The Deer Hunter.
It's about Vietnam, right?
It's a RAR, according to my research. Apparently, they do hunt deers.
Yeah.
Oh. I thought it was just like
I
a
don't know
Vietnam
about
movie.
Vietnam.
Now, what does that say? Out of all these movies, that's the one I know. No deer hunter.
Yes, and it is evidently a large part of the plot that they hunt deer. So I'm gonna, it's a RAR. All right, next, Coyote Ugly. Do we have
Another
any coyotes
one I know. Thank you.
Coyote Ugly? Of course, there are no coyotes in Coyote Ugly.
The director of Coyote Ugly worked at he was a director that was rep by the office that I worked at. So he would come in and do Walmart commercials or whatever. And he made 2 movies, Coyote Ugly, and the other one was Kangaroo Jack with the CGI kangaroo.
Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah. So those are his feature films. And
Wow.
they both have animals in the name, but one is a nar and one kangaroo. If you said Kangaroo Jack, I hope I'm not spoiling this, Matt. That's a rar.
Damn
I
it,
don't know if
Ben.
that was
Wow. Okay. Da, 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 da. That's all I can think of is that song, that Leanne Rimes song when I think of Coyote Ugly.
Oh, yeah.
And her playing it on a rooftop.
She has that piano, the keyboard. Yeah.
All right, next, To Kill a Mockingbird. Do we have any mockingbirds in To Kill a Mockingbird? Of course, there are no mockingbirds in To Kill a Mockingbird. That's a nah. There's just one obnoxious little kid named Scout. Next, final regular question before we move on to the bonus round.
Okay.
War Horse.
Oh.
Is there a war horse in War Horse?
Oh, I'm wrong, obviously.
Yes, you are wrong. There is a horse in War Horse.
And what a horse it is. A
Yes.
majestic beast. The War Horse.
Okay, so Ben, next I'm going to give all of you your point totals, and you can pick Jeopardy style how many points you want to wager for the final bonus round.
Ooh, okay.
Yes. So Jeanette and Ben are both tied with 9, and Lauren has 8. So we'll go around, and you can, after you hear other people's answers, you can change your mind too. So Lauren, what would you like to wager?
All in.
Okay. Jeanette.
I'll go all in.
Okay. Ben.
All of it. Let's do it.
Wow.
I
Here we
love
go.
steaks. Give me the steaks.
Okay. Oh, now the bonus question is usually kind of a trick question. I don't know if this one would count. Who knows? We'll see. Same thing. Rar or nar?
Okay.
The human centipede.
Um,
I know that one.
I mean, nar, but I see how you mean it's a trick.
Yeah, it could be a
It,
trick.
it is
exactly.
about the human
But there are
centipede.
no centipedes.
Wait, it is about the human centipede. Or are you?
Yeah, but
is the
that's
question
not
a
an
centipede?
animal.
It's not really an animal.
There
that's
are
true.
humans. Humans are animals, and there are
Yeah.
humans, but there are no centipedes.
Because I would say it is about the human centipede, but it's not about a centipede.
Yeah, it's not about an animal centipede.
Matt, how often does Teacup for One cover the human centipede? Is this the first time?
Yes,
Also,
it is.
shout out Tom Six. Whoop, whoop. Sorry,
All right.
I love those
Shout out.
movies.
Okay. Now that all these discussions have happened, you can lock in your final answers before I
Okay.
give. Okay.
What-
Now,
that-
has
yeah.
everyone locked? everyone's
Right,
locked in?
Nar. It's nar.
I considered it a rar because human
Ah.
and humans are animals.
Oh,
You did warn us it's a trick.
I
So
did, and
nobody has
you
any
came-
points.
Ben, you came so close. I was like, Ben, keep it there. Go with it.
Ah,
cheat.
Oh, alas, the human centipede strikes again. I do need to see that movie, but also
do
probably never
you?
going to see that.
You
No, I
need
don't
to
think I
see
do.
all three. You need to see all. You cannot watch just one.
Isn't this
I
so?
think
Wait,
this
the second one is a circle, right? What do they do in the third one?
No, the second. They're all different. They're all different. They all.
But in the
have a
second one,
different
isn't it a
plot.
circle centipede? It's a bunch of people in a circle.
Well, I mean, they move in a circle at one point. Yes.
Okay.
Is the third one like the whole world is a big centipede or something?
No, no,
The whole
no.
world.
I don't want to spoil anything.
Oh no, of course. You can't have that.
I
Well,
can't-
Next week for Oscar Talk, we'll talk about the human centipede 3 full
Yeah.
sequence.
See,
I saw pictures of the poster and I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
That's okay, Lauren.
I don't
No
think
one
I'll
will
ever, I
tell
don't
you.
think I'll ever be watching the human centipede. All right. Well then, do we have anything
On
else to
that
say
note.
about this movie with dogs? And, what is? Does anyone want to explain to me what the title of the movie means? Because I got too bored to look that up.
He reads it in a book. He says
the mountain.
that's the power of the
It's
dog.
in the
Yeah, they see it in the
Bible.
mountain.
yeah, they see it in the mountain,
Mhm.
and it's in the Bible. But that's why I thought he was just trying to train him to ranch, because like he sees the dog, and then the
Mhm.
power is he's like, oh, you have the skill. But then yeah, it is in the Bible.
It's in the. Yeah, not a fan of the title. There were no dogs, and everyone
enough dogs.
100% vote on my Instagram poll. No one said they loved it. Everyone said not enough dogs. So
I don't know.
I think that I
no
I
agreement.
really like this movie. I'll champion the campion. I'm a
Okay.
Jane Campion champion tonight. But I will agree that there were not enough. There should have been more dogs or more powerful dogs in the movie. I think the title is like, it's something about like release my darling from the power of the dog. I was really trying to listen to it. I'll have to do the Google to find out what it means.
If there's anything Oscar baity about this movie, it's the title.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. All right. Any other closing thoughts on the film?
Oh, one last thing. Sam Elliott, we didn't really get to, but
Oh,
he's,
yeah.
he's mad about the movie. Have you heard
So
the
mad.
quote about it?
Yes.
If you listen to the audio, it's great. He's like, "Oh, forget that movie." He's swearing. He's like, "It's a piece of shit movie." And he's so mad about it. And I was like, "Sam, what's?" I love Sam Elliott too. Like he's such a fantastic presence on screen, and he's great at playing cowboys. But like he's gotta chill out. Like it's a good movie. It's not what you had in mind, but that's okay.
Yeah.
He's
Part of his
also-
persona now is to be that way.
Yeah,
He
he's
cushions
at
it,
that
too.
age.
He's like, it's a terrible trash movie made by a great director. She's a brilliant director, but this is
I
a
know.
terrible movie.
I mean, I appreciated that he acknowledged that at the very least. He was like, respect to the other work, but also,
yeah.
I hate this movie.
Yeah, he should have been Bronco Henry in flashback scenes. Imagine Sam Elliott like cradling Benedict Cumberbatch like in a tent on a mountain. Like, that would be an Oscar-worthy performance.
Tell me something, girl.
They have to be new.
There's great memes of Sam Elliott driving out of the parking lot in Star is Born with Bradley Cooper leaning in the car being like, by the way, Sam, it's actually a deconstruction of toxic masculinity and it's a new kind of Western. He's crying and driving away. There's a lot of fun on the internet.
Giving out also quotes of him also defending Brokeback Mountain. But I think it's because he starred in a film with Ang Lee. And so he was really like, Ang Lee can do no wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't
think he'd have been so sideways about this film if Bradley Cooper was in Benedict Cumberbatch's shoes. He'd probably be like, my buddy.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Well, he's at that age now where, yeah, he needs the concerned niece or nephew that's just like, no, just stop talking.
Put down the phone.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Actually, that was what inspired Sam Elliott. Was what inspired my question about is this a Western? Got me thinking, is it? But yes. But Sam Elliott, he likes his John Ford Westerns, I'll assume, or the ones that he's in, or Star is Born. So there it is. Yeah. Anyway, friends, I think this wraps it up for Power of the Dog. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, always such a good chat. I knew if anything, talking about the movie with the three of you would make me, if not like it, appreciate the fact that I spent some time of my life watching it. And it did exactly that. So thank you. So we're going to do a go around and tell us who you are. Remind all 7 of us watching, including my mom's cat, where they can find you. And if you have anything exciting coming up creatively, professionally, personally, let us know. Let's start with Jeanette.
So once again, I am TinkerJ787 on Instagram. You can go over there for all of my Disney content, Disney World content. I do felting. I'll probably be doing some more cooking soon, hopefully. More baking as we get into spring. So you'll see cookies and things over there too. And like I mentioned before, I have my trip report and all of my Instagram lives from the trip that we just got back from to Disney over there. And so that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jeanette. Always a pleasure. See you next week for Dune.
Hello. You can find me on YouTube at Castlescapes and Clones. I got coming up a look at the movie Fun and Fancy Free as part of my From 0 to 60 segment, which looks at the films of the Walt Disney Animation Studio. Every Monday, I do a Magic Mail Monday where I open up packages. Every Thursday, we have a live. So come and find us tomorrow night at, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern.
Yeah, Galactic Star Cruiser. Woot. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
And Ben, how about you?
Hi, it's Ben Gordon, and It's Ben Gordon is my handle on Instagram and Twitter. I'm the only one without a YouTube, and it looks so fun. Everybody has a cool YouTube channel. Check out Jeanette and Lauren's YouTube channels and keep watching Matt's. But maybe I'll start one. Maybe this will be the declaration that one day we'll do a YouTube channel because they just seem so much fun. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great to see you, Matt, once again.
Great to see you, Ben.
So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for
the dog.
Power of the Dog. Wonderful. And yeah, are you still going to join us for when we just discuss all the Oscar nominations?
Thank you for reminding me, Matt. Yes, you can see me again, but there's going to be another future episode. We're going to talk about the Oscars of 2022 as a whole. So we'll be talking about all kinds of movies. I can't wait for that one. Looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben. Always a pleasure. Oh, I got rid of Ben. He was about to say thank you. Just trust that it happened. Trust that it happened. All right. Well, thank you, friends, for joining us for another Oscar Movie Marathon live show discussing Power of the Dog. Always a pleasure. Join us next week. Next week's movie is going to be Dune, which should be exciting. Or, well, who knows? I watched the 80s one earlier this week. I'm still angry about it. So we'll see if I feel better about the new one. Who knows? But at least it made me feel something, which is more than this movie did. So, yeah. Once again, my channel is Teacup For One. You're watching it right now. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and this has been the Teacup for One. How do I end this?